Well, I really appreciated the last panel because it kind of segued perfectly into this one. Thank you, Humpty, for the scheduling. We really got to talk already touching on some on-chain community elements. So we're going to dive even deeper into that topic here with our amazing panelists and hopefully tease out some insights, whether you're looking to start an on-chain community or you have a community or an audience and you want to bring that on-chain, or just generally look at what are the pros and cons of doing that. We're going to take a deep dive. So first of all, if you wouldn't mind, let's just start introducing ourselves and we'll just so everyone has context for what you guys are working on. We'll love to hear it.
Hi everyone, I'm Ted. I just joined the Farcaster team a couple weeks ago, but before that, I was an early power user of Farcaster, built a community there, ended up tokenizing the community into a group called Club Ted, played around with a bunch of content stuff, and that is a little bit of TLDR. I'm sure we'll dive into it more.
Miggles, everyone. This is Tylerocket from the Mr. Miggles team. I'm also a co-founder at purrLabs. What we're working on is revolutionizing crypto native IPs, and we're starting off with this Mr. Miggles cat, which is the Coinbase cat, but believing that there's a huge gap that we can fill with an organic movement. And so our goal here right now throughout this year is to make this cat as famous as possible. So excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Hey everyone, my name is Sahil. I'm the founder of OpenRank, and we've been building ranking and a reputation there for the open web. And we've been deeply involved in the Farcaster ecosystem, so I see a lot of familiar faces. Most recently, we've been working on a social app for communities where we can help them succeed, curate, monetize, and really leverage crypto rails and open social grass to give just value back to communities and their users. So yeah, excited to chat more about that.
Awesome, love that. Would love to hear just what excites you the most about on-chain communities. What are you seeing right now that just gets you stoked?
I think I have a really interesting first-hand experience with this, just like the trials and tribulations of running a meme coin, especially in the current cycle. There's it's really tough. And especially doing it the organic way is tremendously challenging because it's so easy, and everyone here I'm sure is familiar with what goes on in the Solana world when you have these paid promotions, what I call the KOL industrial complex. It's so easy to take this quick and easy route, but what we've done is taken the true organic slow cook route where we focused on building community. The whole vision with Mr. Miggles was to empower creators. So working with a collective and community of creators that just love to make their own vision of Miggles art, Miggles music, whatever, finding ways to empower them and enact Miggles as this distribution channel where there's already an existing community that loves anything that has to do with this cat, and building them an audience and finding new fans. And taking this organic approach, that has actually paid off tremendously for us. Because of this organic growth and movement that we've led, we've actually been the first ever IP license directly from Coinbase. So this would have been possible if we had taken the short route of doing paid promotions, trying to take the quick and easy pump and dump route. But because we're really focused on reaching the level of this current cycle, this next era of Doge, of Pudgy Penguins, this was the focus that we had from day one of doing things the right way, going to these IRL events, spreading the word, sharing the story, and letting people know that we're here to make something truly epic and real. And to see that grow over the past 7-8 months now, and seeing how strong the community has become, how supportive everyone is now of each other, and all these new artists and creators that are coming into the community to celebrate their own art, seeing all that happen and play out in real time has been tremendously fulfilling and gratifying.
I think I have I guess quick context is that my background before crypto is that I did a lot of work with brands, celebrities, startups, and big tech. And so working with a lot of my clients before, it would be a celebrity and their audience was fractured across many different platforms. So there was Instagram, Facebook at the time, there was Twitter, now there's TikTok, at some point there was Vine. And so it was really interesting to see what mattered most to these celebrities or this new wave of influencers. And the number one thing that they cared a lot about, at least what they would say, stated preference, was community. I want to make sure that the people who I'm getting distributed to in these algorithms are people who care about my work. And so I think what actually excites me most about crypto and kind of like on-chain and the tokenization is that it almost can be a more efficient way for both distribution, discovery, and then engagement. And so I get really excited about kind of some of the work that Sahil is doing. And I know GM Farcaster talked about this earlier, about like actually being able to reward your fans directly. And that to me is like what excites me most, because I think that's a lot easier to communicate to creators today, to onboard them and to feel like, oh, these crypto rails actually will provide value and create a better experience, not just for me, but also for my community of like new and existing fans.
Yeah, I think agree with a lot of the things that just brought up. So one of the big light bulb moments for me personally, I'm a pudgy holder, so like I think it was just a very funny way of relating to the vibes. Like, hey, there's a cute little thing, a penguin, a bunch of people are buying it, let me buy it. I'm a part of the same community now. We're doing these pop-up events, and there's no one controlling anything. We're all pudgy holders. Wherever it was minted on a chain, right? I didn't have to subscribe to a single platform. To Ted's point, my attention is not fragmented across different platforms. Of course, I use different platforms to communicate and find my tribe of pudgy holders, but that is that one thing which brings me together, right? So I think that was my light bulb moment. And then over time, as we spend more energy on Farcaster, I think there's a few things which are becoming clear. And you know, this is conversations with Humpty, conversations with GM Farcaster, and a few other community builders. First, it's now easy to go and reward anyone who's contributing to your community. It's funny, this morning I woke up and I checked, I'm a big foodie, so I opened Instagram. One of the food influencers I follow, she wrote, hey, whoever's liking my posts on Instagram, don't worry, when I get rich, I'm gonna buy you a burrito. You can do that on day one with on-chain communities. You can start rewarding those people, right? You have a direct relationship with them. You don't have to depend on these centralized companies' algorithms to kind of, you know, show what content matters and who's supposed to show up. So I think that rewarding on day one, unlocking value, is amazing. Cannot happen in Web 2. And then I think the second phase is really, this is not, all the things I'm sharing is not from me. It's like all the things we've learned from all these conversations we've had with community builders on chain, right? And the second thing is giving your community a voice. Curating good content. If someone has something good to say in your community, you can actually bring them up. You can make them discovered. You can, their comments or their posts can matter. If you're running a community around food or football or whatever that is, right, on chain. So that discovery piece is not controlled, and I think Farcaster is a great place to kind of go and experiment that. And kind of the last piece is ownership. Like, if I'm a pudgy holder, let's say I have some ownership, I got an airdrop, but that's a great mental model. If I'm running a community, not only I can just reward people, but I can give them ownership in the longer, like, so that the community is a going concern, right? And that can be happening with tokens, that can be happening with, if a community is earning money, how do you distribute that revenue to people who actually are contributing well, giving them ownership so they're incentivized to stay. So I think these are fundamental new building blocks that on-chain communities get, which were in the early days, right? But I'm all for it, all excited for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, this really touches on some important things to talk about, like the authenticity of what we can do with on-chain communities, the efficiency, and being able to reach your audience in a totally different and new way that's like maybe like makes it much better. And then what you're talking about, rewarding your audience from day one versus saying, oh well, when you make me really famous and I have like X amount of ad revenue, I can like give back to you. And I think that that's really cool. These are amazing and powerful tools. So I want to dig into those a little bit more and say, like, if I'm a creator sitting in this audience, or I'm looking to be like, okay, I have an audience, I'm doing these actions, I'm building my brand, my voice, what should I be looking at as what are the benefits of going on chain? And also, like, how would I start? Like, where would I even put my, what would I open up on my computer to just get started to even researching and understanding if this is the right choice for me?
I can try. I think I'll start and just say, like, there's so much room for improvement here. Like, there's a lot left to be desired. I think when I was starting out, and an area kind of referenced this, is that there's no one good place to go learn about what's possible. And I think a lot of crypto projects are also, they're not necessarily long lasting when you can look at like the Web2 incumbents. So like Instagram's been around for a while. TikTok's like still recent, but it's almost a decade old. And so there isn't an easy place to go. And so I think the people who've already been on this stage are great starting points. It's like, go speak to people who've already done a lot of the work to learn about what's out there and what's the best for them. I think there's a variety of different platforms to look for. So that's like, number one is like, where do they get started? It's just like, talk to people who are already doing it, because I know I loved helping other people get started, and I think everyone just wants to pay it forward, which is a really unique cultural element of, I think, a lot of on-chain creators. And I forgot the other part of the question, but I think you guys want to answer. Go for it.
Probably the least capable of answering that question. But you're a creator, so maybe let's
right.
hear from you.
So I think it's the main difference between like Web2 and Web3 communities is that during the Web2 era, I mean, which is still right now, but it's focused on content creation, but this Web3 community space now focuses on digital ownership as well. And that comes with, I think, a huge inherent part of Web3 culture is this kind of collective belief of people finding new ways to better their lives through ownership, through like making new kinds of money. And as someone that wants to come into this space as a new creator, what we found is that if you're a new artist coming in here and you like launch a collection or you do an auction, the hardest part is actually finding a community that is receptive to what you're doing, that wants to support you. And when a huge part of the space is still focused on like flipping and just like making money purely driven by financial motivations, it's really hard to find a sustainable balance on that front. But what we found with the Miggles community and the Miggles Creator Collective is that, like I was alluding to earlier, it's like, hey, we're focusing on empowering creators, and this is like our grand vision, where just come enter our world of this Miggles cat, because we already have such a strong organic community that loves literally anything to do with this Miggles cat. So we've actually already worked with 2 artists that have come on board to make their own vision of Miggles art. So we actually just did a derivative NFT mint of our Miggles NFT called Miggles on ASCII. It's like an ASCII code Miggles. And this guy I just met in Tokyo last month, and I talked to him about like what we're doing with Miggles. We just vibed and invited him like, hey, you should, if you want to do something, just make something with Miggles, and then like we'll help celebrate what you're doing. And the collection minted out in 12 hours. The community loves his artwork. They've like a bunch of them have switched their PFPs. And so seeing that direct entry to reward, where it's like, it's not just a short-term thing, but more a sustainable base of existing fan bases and communities that want to support more creations, more creators to enter the space that we're in. That's a really interesting alignment that we're finding, and we're really trying to spread more of, to empower more creators throughout the world, because it's not just like visual and digital art. We're working with like a bunch of music producers and fashion designers as well. And so we're really trying to champion every vertical of what it means to be a creator and just celebrate this Miggles IP that we have all across the world.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And just to piggyback on that last point, is that I think I've personally discovered some amazing people I did not know IRL or on Twitter, on Farcaster, and they have good thesis on some topic, right? And let's say if I'm a creator and I want to get started, I identify what are the topics I'm excited about. Maybe I'm excited about writing and dissecting tech. Maybe I'm interested in politics or whatever that is, right? Or a particular NFT community or an art community, right? It's easy to get started on these open social graphs versus, like to Ted's point, Instagrams and Twitters, which are kind of have been here for a while, and you have to do a lot of effort, have to understand their algorithms, etc. So start in smaller niche places or smaller islands and find out what you align with, and then I think put yourself out there, contribute with something original. The cool part about crypto or open networks is you could create something and actually airdrop to a community which is peripheral or adjacent, just to get attention or get people excited, and there would be an overlap, and start building your own audience that way. Now that is very difficult to do. Like, I think people in crypto want to make money, creators want to make money, they want to distribute money to the right people, but this whole idea of the positive spin on vampire attacks, which is airdropping tokens to valuable people on the internet or on chain or a social network, is actually a pretty powerful construct. And you could start by there. Even if you don't have your own community, start with another, piggyback on another, and then kind of you can build your way from there. So I think that's a cool possibility for anyone who's a new creator.
Yeah, I love that. And I also think you kind of made me think, Sahil, about sort of the opposite, like the reverse of that, which is start building a community first and then go on chain if it even works for you, if it even makes sense for you. Because really, like, fundamentally, an on-chain community is first and foremost a community, and you don't create a community by having a token. You create a community by the connectivity, by people who have shared interests and values, and they want the same things. And if you already have that, then you just add another layer of incentives on top of it, and okay, you can fly now. And the tools, like to the point of, like, this is a tough question, is the tools are actually still being built, and they're not necessarily all the way there and super accessible yet. So in the meantime, if you see the potential of this type of community, just get started and see, get a few friends together and see, see where you go from there. And maybe to that point too, for our next question is, I'm part of a few different communities here in Web3. Actually, none of the ones I'm involved with most significantly are tokenized. They're not on chain. They're just Telegram groups, and we chat, or we go hang out IRL, or we meet up at different crypto conferences. And even in those communities, these discussions have happened. Is what would it look like to be a little bit more on chain, or what does it look like to reward each other's for contributions? Like, how do we do that? And even in the most die-hard, IRL communities, in Web3, it's actually really tough to make that transition. And so what I'd ask is, first of all, who is this right for? Like, does this work for everyone? Should every community be on chain? Maybe that's an obvious no, but what community should be? Who should be thinking about it? And who have you seen, you guys shouldn't have even bothered with this? Whether that's too early or just it's not right for you. What do you think?
I might, just speaking from personal experience, I am a case study of somebody who built a community before they figured out if it was right to tokenize for it. The reason that I ended up doing it, and I grappled with the same question, it's what are the advantages of doing it? And I think on Farcaster, because it is a crypto native platform, the interoperability and composability that crypto enables is the perfect experimental ground. And so the NFT community, it was just a capped NFT, so it was a limited time or a limited amount membership. It was built on a platform called Hypersub, which is almost subscription platform. And so when people bought into it, it was for a certain amount of time. So they said, oh, I'm subscribing for 3 months or 6 months or a year. There are people who did 18 months. And so I could also see oh, this isn't just how many tokens are they holding? It's oh, how much time do they actually want to be part of this community? And then because of some of the unique token gating kind of group chats, it ended up being a group chat where we would all share, and it could automatically update if somebody ran out of time, or you would get notifications. And so it ended up being the right decision for me because I had built my community on Farcaster already. And so it made perfect sense. And then also it was more of a social community. It wasn't necessarily around remixing different IP or art or anything. It was just this is a social community to learn and to help and support each other. And it ended up like, it's like some of my favorite people over the past year are friends that I made through this group. And so I think as everybody thinks through it, again, there's not one playbook for any, we're still early enough, but I think evaluating like, what does this enable that I can't do otherwise is a really good question to ask. And I also think to everybody, like everybody spoke before, there has to be like a level of like experimentation and curiosity and like, okay, I'm willing to do this and it might not work out, and that's okay. And that's just, I would say, like my own personal experience and what I think worked well for me and could work really well for other people as well.
Yeah, this is a really interesting question because of how the Miggles mission even started, or just the whole Miggles community started. We're actually a CTO team. We're a community takeover project. So we actually, the team that runs Miggles right now, we did not deploy and launch the Miggles coin. It just happened, and the original deployer, abandoned the project early on, and we just stepped up to take over essentially and do things that we believe would be right to establish an organic movement and actually leverage the best parts of Web3 culture so far. So like with the NFT cycle, we had these amazing ways of digital ownership, and with what we're seeing with memes now is just recognizing that memes have such a strong unifying power that crosses any like geopolitical differences. People just recognizing and just like coming together with a picture and a quote, and that we recognized how powerful that is to bring people together. And with this vision that Miggles was born, because Miggles was actually born from a Coinbase ad to empower creators, recognizing that we're in this new creator economy, AI is going to take over everything. How do we actually honor copyright? How do we actually reward creators in the way that they should be? And so that's what Miggles is championing. And because we recognized how important that is as society and tech continues to move forward, that has been our main focus of just continuing to make memes, continuing to onboard new creators, make new types of art, establish these new exciting collaborations that exist just not only in Web3, but also in Web 2, and finding ways to close this gap to actually enable this on-chain renaissance, not just supporting and participating in it, but finding ways to pave the way forward. And so that's been our main focus of how do we actually leverage the best parts of Web3 culture and tech that has been emerged so far and put these pieces together in a new way that can truly embrace and lead the ongoing on-chain renaissance.
Yeah, I think it's a billion-dollar question or more, perhaps. There's no right answer. But if I had to take like some mental model of, let's say, segmenting which are the right kind of, what's the right way to classify communities which should tokenize, I think on one end of the spectrum, you have communities which loosely, I would say, have product market fit. There are communities where there's enough conversational liquidity happening. There's a bunch of people who care about that topic. They're posting, they're spending at least some time. You know, it passes kind of that test where you just go to that community and you see what's going on for some time. Or you create content, right? Memes is a very good example. The memes channel on Farcaster is a great example. It makes people laugh, it's fun. And for that, it makes sense to kind of try and monetize it. To Ted's point, Hypersub can be used. You're part of that. And then you can just start distributing, let's say, value to the creators or people who are adding value to that community, because there's many people who actually contribute to that, right? So any community which has pretty good conversational liquidity, they could tokenize for solving the monetization and incentives problem. I think then on the other side of the spectrum is communities which are still young, but they want to try and use a token for interesting things. Maybe give ownership to their users, even if that size of the community is 100 people, right? Ownership as in, hey, if you own these tokens and if you're owning these tokens, maybe I'll let you manage the community. I'll let you mint something specific. And there's this intrinsic kind of ownership element that comes in, which is less about token price go up, right? It's more about, hey, I'm here for the vibes. I'm here for being a part of this like curated set of people, and that's good. And then it really depends on that community curator, moderator, or owner, whatsoever, for them to kind of see how to kind of take that forward. So I think that itself isn't a set of experiments and iterations to figure it out. So there are less mental models or visible models, but I think I could see tokenizing communities on both sides, you know, one for ownership and governance, or, you know, and the other is more like, hey, this is ready, let's tokenize and let other people actually pass value. What if a memes community was so popular that all the other token communities would want to say, hey, I want to actually airdrop to the top 100 funniest people who are creating memes on the internet, and that's the place you go and do that, right? So that'll be cool. That'll be a good unlock.
I love that. I love that way of thinking about it too, and also the eternal, oh, you need to find PMF is like, that's such a great point, because I think there are so many communities that are just like really strong vibes, but you know, you have to know like, okay, is this 5 people? Is this going to be 50 people? Is this going to scale? Is this like a real thing, or is this like my family? You know, my homies. And you know, PMF's hard to reach in crypto. So, and for communities, you can see it when the token price goes up, right? You know that they found something. And sometimes the PMF is speculation, right? It's not real community, or you know, however you define that. Maybe that's a bit too normative to go into, but sometimes that's how you know. And so I appreciate that. This insight from all 3 of you, just like really digging into this on-chain community dynamic as we explore this in our ecosystem, and we really learn to figure out like what does it look like to bring communities on chain, to start communities on chain, and you know, eventually, hopefully soon, to what you were saying earlier, Ted, is like porting over your community in some way, or your audience into Web3, so that we can actually capitalize on the additional layer of incentives. So it's really cool. Thanks so much for talking with you all. We're out of time. I could probably ask you 10 more questions, but this is fantastic. Thank you all for joining and for diving deep into this conversation. It's great. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Keep Miggling.